All right, folks, lately I'm getting a lot of questions about the LCP, and so I thought, let's talk about it. If you know me and you follow the channel, you know that I'm not a tech expert. In fact, I would call myself somewhat tech phobic, although I do find myself climbing in and doing the work that I need to do to get this done. I feel like I need to learn it, but it's not really my strength. And the truth is, while I'm doing what I can to make my site fast, I haven't really paid that close attention to the metrics because it never seemed like the specifics of how long things took was really that big a deal or all that important. People might disagree, and even talking with people today, the question of how much speed should be taken into account right now as it relates to rankings is still something that we are debating. Then I saw this news article that talked about Google's Core Web Vitals to become ranking signals in 2021. And so then I decided to take a look at my Web Core Vitals, which I see measured in Google Search Console, and found that I have lots of URLs that are just plain bad. And overall, my site scores really poorly in the Web Core Vitals. So I got to work on my site. I updated the theme and I did a bunch of work to compress the images and do whatever I could, what I knew how to do to go ahead and try to make things faster. And to some extent, I did improve some of those statistics really quickly without the need to invest a bunch of money in plugins or in outside assistance. But my LCP didn't improve, and so I decided I'm going to have to dig deeper into this to understand what it is so that I can actually fix it, because honestly, I didn't understand what this meant before I started this project. All right, so what is it? What is this darn thing? And your first clue is going to come with the name, Largest Contentful Paint. Web.dev has a pretty decent article about this. You can see the link on the screen. It marks when the page's main content has likely loaded. It helps reassure that the page is useful. It measures the render time of the largest content visible within the viewport. And news to me, it varies from site to site. It could be any element. It could be text, or it could be a picture, or it could be a video. And so just taking someone else's experience or their recommendations to take something and change it won't necessarily fix that LCP on your site. So what is a good LCP? Now, what I've seen in my research is that this number actually varies. So I just went to my Google Search Console and looked at what alerts I had there and what Google Search Console thinks is a good or bad LCP, and what I see it listed as anything longer than 4 seconds. So the next step in the inquiry, if you are interested, like I am, in resolving the LCP issue, is figuring out what specific element on your page for mobile and desktop, and I suppose they could be different, is what is your LCP? What is the largest contentful paint item? Once you know what that is, then you can go to work to try to figure out how to fix it. So how do you figure out which element is the LCP? Which element is the one that you need to fix, the one that is giving you the trouble? So I decided to go to Page Speed Insights, and this is actually where I was able to locate my LCP, and I did this by putting my URL and analyzing it and looking at mobile and desktop, and to my surprise and dismay, it turns out that the LCP on desktop is actually different than the one that it is on mobile, which is a bummer because that means more work for me, but that is good to know. And that is why in Google Search Console, why you have to validate one fix for mobile and one fix for desktop, because they can be different. So here we are looking at CNN.com, which measures a whopping 2 on mobile, and you can see it has an LCP score of 6.2 seconds. Now what I'm going to show you is where it is that you can find what the LCP for this page is. So we're going to scroll past the lab data, we're going to scroll down past the opportunity, and we're going to look here in diagnostics. And if you keep going down to this gray area, you'll see largest contentful paint element. When you click on it, it will actually identify the specific element, and in this case it looks to be an image. So for fun, I decided to start entering in other URLs, specifically URLs that had been shared by other folks in our community, just to see what would pop up. And some of them were standard things you assume, you know, the featured image on a page or perhaps a video. But in this case, with this particular website, and this is why it's important, I think, to check this out, the LCP was actually the cookie notification. So that little bar that you often see that asks people to block or allow as it relates to collecting information. I mean, a lot of us have them to be compliant with the GDPR. Most of us put those on as an afterthought. We really don't think necessarily what impact they might have on the site. But for this site in particular, that cookie bar, that notification is right now the cause of why this site has an LCP of greater than 4 seconds. So what are my LCP elements? Well, for my mobile site, it is actually the header branding image for the site. And for my desktop, it is actually the featured image for the first post that shows up on the page when people initially visit. And knowing this, do I know yet how exactly I'm going to resolve this issue? Not yet. But at least now I know what to work on and I'm no longer just bumbling around in the dark. Now I already know before I even post this video that as soon as I do, there will be a lot of people who will helpfully and not in a trolling way will let me know in the comments that they disagree about using page speed insights for any purpose whatsoever, that it is theoretical, that the data is not real, that we should be using other tools to measure these things, or we shouldn't even bother paying attention at all to the web core vital. And I say, let them hate. We don't have to agree about the strategies that we use or the things that we think are important or that we work on. And I don't feel at all troubled or intimidated by coming on here and admitting, one, that I don't know everything, and two, that I'm still working on the various aspects of the site to try to improve it. Is it possible that I could do all of this work and try to learn so much about web core vitals and have it mean nothing in the future? Of course, but am I going to stop looking at these simply because people tell me that they think that it's not important? That is certainly their right to do it, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to change my strategy and what I think is important, right? Thank you so much for watching. I would appreciate it, love it if you would leave me a comment and let me know what you thought and where you are in your journey about working on improving your web core vitals stats. What you see here on the screen are some links to some playlists where I do interviews with lots of like-minded folks and even some live streams.